And this gets me back to another thing that happened this week with regard to Jimmy Kimmel and a lot of the affiliates of ABC not even carrying his monologue. So is this something we should worry about? Michael, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, even with 20% of the country not getting Kimmel's show, he still got, I think, 4 times the audience that he normally would that night. And, upwards of 20 million views on the monologue on YouTube, which, obviously goes above any of the broadcast controls.
This
right?
is a big deal. Upwards of 20 million views on YouTube. Kimmel's usual audience is 1.1 million for his normal monologue before Trump got involved and Brandon Carr. And then you had over 6 million who actually saw it and heard it. And then on top of that, you had another 20 million who heard it or saw it on YouTube. I mean,
and probably countless millions more, because again, this is a digital ecosystem that we work in here at Inequality Media. You're getting clips of the full 30-minute monologue that also get millions of views on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, on YouTube Shorts. I mean, if the point was to quash Kimmel's voice, unsurprisingly, this kind of did the opposite.
So going back to our question about can the Democrats get their message through with regard to a pending shutdown, or for that matter, anything else? Did we learn anything from what happened with Disney and Kimmel and Brendan Carr that is encouraging or discouraging in terms of getting the message out, getting the message through? What do you think?
I think it's encouraging.
Yeah, okay.
I definitely agree, Vish. I think it's encouraging, and I think it shows that people are ready to take action if they're organized around it. After the announcement that he was suspended, a ton of people started canceling their Hulu subscriptions, their Disney Plus subscriptions. Disney stock started to plummet, which means it just goes to show that these corporations will always care about their bottom lines more than taking a political stand. That's for better or for worse. And I think it also speaks to the danger of corporate consolidation in media, for sure, because now you have just a handful of billionaires, many of whom are aligned with Trump. They're controlling what we see, what we read, what we watch, and then it also just gives the rest of us less choice in what we can access. And it's like, okay, ABC took them off the air. They're owned by Disney, who also owns ESPN, who also owns Hulu, who wants to own another streaming platform. So really, I think it's this is exactly what these market dominant firms want, is they want to be able to control so many aspects of our lives that if we want to take a stance, if we want to vote with our dollar, our choices are so limited, because it's like, okay, let me just go cancel Disney Plus and Hulu and ESPN, not watch this and not do this. So I think it really speaks to the fact that monopolization and authoritarianism go hand in hand, because once we don't have access to other independent voices, once we're forced into participating in these monopolies, we don't have a voice in our economy and our democracy.
Excuse me for interrupting. I thought you were going in a slightly different direction at first, because I thought you were saying that, well, with regard to Disney, it looked like the people were breaking through. Disney made a 180-degree change, and that was because it was so exposed to consumers, and a consumer boycott was really having an effect. But you now are also alerting us to a counter trend, which is that there is so much media concentration. I don't know if you saw this. Matt Stoller had this figure last week, and that was that in 1983, 90% of the media ownership was in the hands of 50 separate owners. That is, 50 owners had 90% of media, and now 90% of the media is in the hands of just five big media owners. That substantiates, or that underscores the point you're making, Katie. It's much easier for a demagogue to control speech if you have just a few levers, a few concentrated media places where that demagogue has got to suppress speech. So I don't know whether to be encouraged or discouraged.
Absolutely. The former Federal Trade Commission Chair, Lena Khan, she has spoken a lot and worked a lot at length about addressing corporate concentration. And we actually have a great video with her about this very topic, about how monopolies reduce our economic freedom. So everyone should go check it out after this.
Here. So basically, there was this major howling, screaming fit about canceling Kimmel. He said bad things that made the president angry. And now, poof, it's gone. And not only is it gone, but the impact of having done that matters too.
So I thought of you when that happened, because we're in this moment. It's very clear that the president and his loyalists are trying desperately to gather all the power of the federal government into their own hands. And that's scary to watch. It really is. Because if they can do what they are saying they can do, then in fact, we're already in a dictatorship. And I don't want to downplay at all the true horror here of what's happening to undocumented immigrants as well as just people of color in the United States, which I also want to get back to today, because I think the parallels between that, well, I'll go into that later. But I did think the Kimmel stuff was fascinating, because I thought of you the whole time, because people push back. As they push back, I think it was with you I was talking about the other day, a lot of these corporations and law firms and so on have been kind of hedging their bets. They've been sort of saying they're going to do this, but giving themselves out. And ABC took that out with Kimmel pretty quickly. Sinclair said, we're not going to do it. Sinclair Media, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And then what happened, it appears to have happened, is that people actually went to their individual Sinclair channels, made lists of the advertisers, called the advertisers, and an entire group of people who were boycotting Kimmel backed off. And now he's entirely back on the air. And to my eye, I'm not a Kimmel watcher, at least as anti-Trump as he's ever been before.
And his viewership, his audience is much bigger now, because people, first of all, we're talking about him. I can't say that either one of us did that before. It like came back and hit them in the face. So it's interesting too. I want to touch on what you just said, because I read about that too, that people went to their local channel and found the advertisers, contacted the advertisers, who then contacted Sinclair. A lot of people, so I've been, not surprisingly, over the course of the past week saying, like, look, pushing back matters. And some people have responded to that by saying, yes, they're just responding because of the money. And I mean, so if that's one way for pushback to matter, fine. I don't think that pushback only matters if people say, you are correct in your principles. We are turning and walking away because we are wrong. I don't, pushback isn't going to look like that. It isn't going to get a response like that. Pushback is whatever you need to do along the lines of protesting, boycotting, whatever, along those lines. If it has an impact, people who are threatening to censor or silence or repress decide not to censor or silence or repress, it matters.
There's an old saying that the Republicans have always been much louder in praise and much louder in condemnation. And it seems that those who are opposed to this regime are learning that lesson.